This podcast is sponsored by the book, The Biased Brain, by Bo Bennett, PhD. Dive into the world of cognitive biases and transform your understanding of reality. Get your copy today at thebiasedbrain.com.
How optimism bias affects our risk assessment and decision-making. Discover how optimism bias influences risk assessment and decision-making, and learn ways to recognize and balance this common cognitive bias. Why we think bad things won't happen to us. Understanding optimism bias in risk assessment. You ever notice how people tend to believe bad stuff is more likely to happen to others, but not to themselves? Like you hear about someone getting seriously sick, losing money in an accident, or facing some kind of crisis, and you immediately think, that'll never happen to me. This is actually a really fascinating quirk of human cognition called optimism bias. It's one of those cognitive biases that quietly steers a lot of our decision-making, especially when we're assessing risks in everyday life. So what exactly is optimism bias? Well, it's this tendency for our brains to overestimate the likelihood of positive outcomes and underestimate the chance of negative ones happening to us personally. In simpler terms, your mind picks out the hope over the fear, making you think you're less vulnerable than you truly are. Think about it. How often have you heard people say, "I'm a careful driver, so I'm not going to get in an accident," or "I don't need to worry much about catching the flu this season"? That's optimism bias at work. This bias shapes how we evaluate potential hazards, risks, and uncertainties all the time, often without us even realizing it. Why does our brain do this? At its core, optimism bias is part of a larger suite of cognitive biases our brains use to protect us, kind of like mental shortcuts. The human brain is wired to favor survival and well-being, so it tends to filter information in a way that keeps us hopeful and motivated. If we were to always focus on the worst-case scenarios, life would probably feel overwhelming and paralyzing. But this bias comes with downsides, especially when it comes to risk assessment. For example, binge drinking because I won't get harmed. Skipping health checkups. I'm healthy, no need. Ignoring safety drills. An emergency won't happen here. These assumptions can lead to underestimating danger and poor decisions, which impacts our personal safety and sometimes the safety of others. How optimism bias affects real-life decisions. Let's say you're deciding whether to buy insurance or save money instead. Optimism bias might cause you to believe disasters are unlikely to happen to you, so you skip insurance and risk big potential losses. Even in investing, people often assume their picks will outperform the market despite the odds. This biased brain perspective is why experts urge us to take a step back and practice critical thinking and biases awareness, because it's so easy to convince yourself to ignore real risks when hope gets in the way. How can we manage optimism bias? Recognizing this bias is the first step to managing it. Here are a few simple tips to keep yourself in check. Seek diverse perspectives. Ask others for their thoughts on risks. You might hear things your mind filtered out. Look at data. Numbers and statistics don't lie the way feelings do. They can ground your expectations. Play out worst-case scenarios. Imagine what could go wrong and make a plan for it, even if you think it's unlikely. Check yourself regularly. When you feel too confident about a risky decision, pause and reconsider. By doing this, you're sharpening your skills in understanding cognitive biases and improving your bias in decision-making, which leads to smarter, safer choices. The bigger picture, why it matters. Understanding optimism bias isn't just about avoiding personal mistakes. It's about seeing the bigger patterns in human thought. This bias, alongside others, shows how human cognition isn't perfectly rational even when we think we are. Books like The Biased Brain by Bo Bennett, PhD, break down these quirks with lots of eye-opening research and examples. If you want to get better at spotting when your brain is playing tricks on you, or just curious why we think the way we do, exploring this book is a great move. Explore the book and unravel the secrets of your mind today. By diving into a better understanding of cognitive biases, including optimism bias, you can enhance your critical thinking skills and make more balanced, informed decisions in all areas of life.